Hello BookTube, I'm Peg and welcome to my channel. I'd like to welcome some of the new subscribers it looks like I've picked up recently. In fact, I've gone over 300 subscribers to me, which is to me is just fantastic. That's 300 more book friends than I've ever had before in my life, so that's great. I'm here today. I had talked about a little bit about Neo-Victorian novels that were on my Tome Topple list that I'm reading now. And I had a couple comments that people were interested in the Neo-Victorianism and really liked it once they realized what it was, and I was kind of the same way. So I thought I'd do a video just on it and talk about some of the books that are in that category. Now, Neo-Victorian novel is not a particular genre. In fact, it can be almost any genre, but it takes place in Victorian times or Edwardian times anyway, even between 1800 and 1915, when the First World War started, is roughly how the literary term means. So it takes place in those times, but it was written in modern times. And actually, I've been doing some reading. There's been some scholarly type studies done of it now. And they say that a lot of people prefer to read the Neo-Victorian literature because it actually gives more details of what life was like back then, because the authors of today have done so much research that they are able to put in things that like what they ate and how bad the roads and stunk and things like that the Victorian authors themselves don't think to put in, because they assume that their readers already know all the details of life, like what they ate and what they wore and what their houses look like. And so I think Neo-Victorianism is becoming, quite popular because of that fact. And I want to say also, it's not only in books. For the last 30 years, there has been this new craze for things Victorian, furniture, house things. It's also become bigger and bigger in film. Now, I'm not a real movie addict, but I think the biggest example of that is Downton Abbey and just how popular it was. And of course, there's many now like that. Also in clothes, there's I've put on down below a website where you can actually buy Victorian clothes to wear today. And there's a group in science fiction world called steampunk, that's a attribution of the Victorian times, because steam engines were big then. And steampunk itself involves novels, but it also involves this dressing up. I believe it's called cosplay, and they have conventions where they get together and they dress like Victorians, but there's definitely a punk look to it. If you've ever seen it, you'll know what I mean. This looks like it's kind of fun. Anyway, so, but anyway, today I'm here to talk about the literary movement of Neo-Victorianism, and I have some examples to show you. Now, as I said, it's not really a genre, though some of the genre novels do include it. There's quite a few mystery series that take place in the Victorian times. I believe Anne Perry writes one, and I'm sure there's others, but I'm going to try to talk about more literary fiction that is Neo-Victorian today. Okay, starting out, probably the one that got it all started, and definitely the most well-known one, is the book Possession by A.S. Byatt. This was written in 1990, and it took the Booker Award that year to much acclaim. It has some of the traditional Victorian themes in it. There are hidden letters and journals and seances. Seances are always big, and it actually has a double time scale. It has some modern scholars that are researching some Victorian poets, so you're able to see both sides there, and that's often done actually now. But this was kind of the forerunner or the start of the Neo-Victorian novels. Okay, next I have one that's actually part of speculative fiction, or some might say science fiction, called Clockwork Dynasty. And it has the typical items that come to proclaim Victorianism, and there was much interest in clocks and clockworks and things like that, which time machines and things like that. Now I have to show you that I do in fact have a Victorian necklace on. It has, there's a clock, and there's some clockworks, different ones around. Okay, so I'm getting into Victorianism, you see. Anyway, this has to do with a mechanical doll that something's hidden inside of, and they find, I think it involves time travel once they get it to working right, etc. And I guess this must be the first of several of this sort. So this really looks like the steampunk type theme. Okay, now Neo-Victorianism does not have to be about England. Here's a book by an Australian author that won all kinds of awards there, and one of Peter Carey's works won the Booker. Now, I can't remember if it's this one or another, but anyway, this is the story of it's based on a true life story called The True History of the Kelly Gang. It's based on Ned Carey, who was an Irish immigrant in Australia and committed some crimes and became kind of a people's favorite or something, but he was on the run for quite a while across Australia, and this deals with some of the escapades he gets into. Sadly enough, he did get caught, and I understand was hanged in 1880 there in Australia. Okay, let's see, what do we have next here? This one, called Adele by Emma Tennant, is another theme that's often used in Neo-Victorianism, in that it takes a Victorian novel and continues the story, or from a different viewpoint. In fact, this one deals with the Jane Eyre story, and Rochester in it had a daughter named Adele, and this tells the Jane Eyre story from her point of view and what happened afterwards, etc. Okay, let's see. Another one that takes a Victorian story and rewrites it, you might say, is The Casebook of Victor Frankenstein by Peter Ackroyd. This author has written several Neo-Victorian novels, actually. And this one, as it says, retells the story of Dr. Frankenstein, and in it we have some of the literary lights of the time. The poet Shelley and Byron and Mary Shelley herself actually come and play a part in this. Okay, next I have The Dress Lodger by Sherry Holman. A dress lodger is actually a prostitute that is dressed up, has like one nice dress, in this case it was a blue one, that she had, that she goes out in to attract a higher class of man. Now, prostitution is talked about a lot in Neo-Victorian novels, especially, and I think we all realize now that many of the women, that was the only, if they had no support, if their husband died or whatever, they had no support. For many of them, that was the only way they could live. So it's done in a manner what would you call it, judgmental way at all. In fact, they usually come across as the prostitutes with a heart of gold and actually accomplish something. But in this one also deals with the cholera epidemic, which was big in Victorian novels, and this young woman's plight through that time. Okay, last I do have, I will say, a genre novel, but it is Neo-Victorian and it looks fun. It's called A Madam of Espionage Mystery, India Black. I think this might be a series, but it is in fact a madam of a whorehouse, and she gets in tight some way with the police and works as a spy for them and helps solve mysteries for them. So that sounds like it'd be kind of fun. Okay, as I said, I have, I'm not talking about today, but I am reading Victorian or NEO-VICTORIAN tomes for the tome Topple, and I'll be back later to talk about those. I am going to be making a video tomorrow about the Giller Prize, the Canadian prize that's going to be awarded on Monday, November 20th. So tomorrow I'll be talking about the short list and who I think should win, etc. So I'll be back then. Also, I'd like to hear from any of you that think you might like neo-Victorian novels, and any of you've read, and any suggestions you might have. So hope to hear from you. Have a great day. Bye.